Time will be the slow. According to that. Today we will talk about the diseases or problems that affect the coverings of the testes. That is the tunica vaginalis. So in the last class we have discussed the fixation of the tunica vaginalis to the posterior layers of the scrotum, whereby preventing the torsion of the testis, torsion of the normally descended anatomically normal testis. So this is a potential space. Tunica vaginalis is a potential space, very narrow space, where the two layers of the tunica vaginalis will be rubbing to each other with little amount of fluid. So if something collected in this tunica vaginalis, then it swells up. The common thing that gets collected in the tunica vaginalis is the fluid. So the commonest thing what we see clinically is scrotal affection is the hydrocele, whereby the fluid gets collected in the layers of the tunica vaginalis, and the size of the scrotum will increase. So today we will discuss about this common condition. By definition, hydrocele is an abnormal collection of serous fluid in a part of the processus vaginalis. So the processus vaginalis extends from the deep internal ring to the bottom of the scrotum. In all its entirety, it gets disappeared after the birth, except the lowermost part of the processus vaginalis surrounding the testis will be there, will persist as tunica vaginalis. Suppose if another part of the processus vaginalis also becomes patent in the upper part, then also fluid accumulates there. So commonly it accumulates in the lowermost part, that is tunica vaginalis. It is abnormal, this is not normal, and the fluid is serous in nature. Fluid is serous in nature. So it will be translucent. It is translucent, and if the blood collects in this space, we call it as protocele. So that is a different condition, we will discuss it later. Coming to the types of hydroceles, it can arise as a congenital one or it can be acquired. Congenital means the processus vaginalis is almost patent in its entirety. If it is communicating to the peritoneal cavity, this is called as communicating congenital hydrocele. If it is closed at the deep ring, it is called as infantile variety of hydroceles. Another one is a part of the processus vaginalis other than tunica vaginalis is patent. It is called as encysted hydrocele of the calf. Those three are the congenital varieties of hydroceles. Coming to the more common acquired one, it can be a primary or idiopathic where the cause is not definitely known. Secondary, which is secondary to disease of the testis, and epididymis. It can be again acute or it can be chronic. So these are all the clinical varieties of hydroceles we encounter in the surgical practice. Coming to the etiology, why and how the fluid gets accumulated in tunica vaginalis. There are four ways described. The first one is excessive production of fluid within the sac. Why the fluid is produced in excess? It is because of the inflammation and increased blood flow to the testis and epididymis, where the secreting surface of the tunica vaginalis, that is the tunica albuginea, secretes more amount of fluid beyond the capacity of the absorbing capacity of the parietal layer. So the balance will be positive, fluid accumulates in the tunica vaginalis. So this is the most common method of fluid accumulation in secondary hydrocele, where the testis and epididymis are inflamed. Second mechanism is defective absorption of the fluid. Though the secretion is normal, the problem lies with the absorption from the parietal layer. So again, the balance is positive, fluid accumulates. This is the mechanism in primary hydrocele. Third one is interference with the lymphatic drainage of the scrotal structures. Though the parietal layer is absorbing fluid normally, the pathway is blocked. The lymphatic pathway carries the fluid is blocked, so the fluid accumulates again. This is the common thing in lymphatic obstruction, failure lymphatic obstruction, malignant lymphatic obstruction, and post-hernial hydroceles, where the lymphatics are at fault. Last one is congenital variety, already we discussed. Because it is in communication with the peritoneal cavity, the peritoneal fluid comes down, collecting in the patent fossa vaginalis. So these are the four mechanisms and etiologies of the fluid accumulation in the tunica vaginalis hydrocele. The causes of secondary hydrocele are, already I told you, acute or chronic epididymoarthritis, where there is inflammation, increased blood supply, increased section of the fluid. Another important ones are torsion of the testis. Though the torsion of the testis is an emergency, acute, I told you that there is intermittent torsion, where body it is partially torted and again revert back. In such cases also, because of the inflammation and edema, fluid can accumulate in the tunica vaginalis. And another dangerous thing is testicular tumors. So in young people, if a young man comes with complaint of scrotal swelling of recent onset, few weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, etc., and if we examine, there is fluid accumulation, no other signs of inflammation, you must be careful, beware to do the ultrasound examination and disprove the presence of the testicular tumor. So this is called as acute hydroceles. Acute hydroceles can present, malignant tumors can present as acute hydroceles in 10% of the testicular tumor cases. Coming to the composition of the fluid, it's nothing but a water containing albumin and fibrinogen. High weight molecular proteins are present in the tissue. Specific gravity is 10222 to 1024. Mainly it contains water, inorganic salts, 6% albumin and fibrinogen. So 6% albumin is present there, so it can be called as an exudate. And tyrosine crystals can be noted in old cases. So if you operate on a case of hydrocele, if you have observed in some cases, in old people, long-standing cases, if you drain the fluid into the container, it will be glistening. Glistening flakes will be seen in the fluid. So those are the tyrosine crystals which has formed in long-standing cases. Before examining a scrotal swelling, you must have a self-questionnaire before attempting to examine the scrotum. First question you should ask yourself is whether it is possible to get above the swelling. Get above the swelling means you have reached the upper limit of the swelling. Beyond this upper limit, you are able to feel the spermatic cord. A bare spermatic cord can be felt beyond the upper limit of the swelling. So this is the meaning of getting above the swelling. First, you must do that and confirm that you are dealing with either a scrotal swelling or an inguinoscrotal swelling. If it is an inguinoscrotal swelling also, it can be a case of hydrocele, a congenital variety of hydrocele. congenital communicating or infantile hydrocele. But most commonly, it will be a hernia, inguinal hernia. When you have decided it is second question you should ask yourself is whether it is a testicular swelling or epididymal swelling, or is the swelling encloses both these two structures. So if it is a solid and enlargement of the testis, the diagnosis will be different. If it is an enlargement of the epididymis, again the diagnosis will be different. If it is a case of hydrocele, it will be surrounding the epididymis and testis on all sides. So that you have to decide whether it is a case of fluid collection in the tunica vaginalis or a solid testicular enlargement or enlargement of the epididymis. Third question is, does the swelling fluctuate and transilluminate? If it shows fluctuation and it transilluminates, it is a case of hydrocele. Fluctuation says it is a cystic swelling and transillumination says the fluid is clear. So it is a case of hydrocele. A fluctuant non-transilluminate can be, fluid can be other than water. That is, it can be blood or it can be chyle, it can be pus, etc. So these two are the cardinal symptoms, cardinal signs of a hydrocele: fluctuation and transillumination. After putting these three questions to yourself, then begin the examination of a scrotal swelling. You will be correct. Clinical features: commonly it is will translucent in 99% of the cases. It is possible to get above the swelling. Testis and epididymis is impossible to palpate separately. They will be covered on all sides by the fluid. The two cardinal signs of hydrocele are translucency and getting above the swelling. In certain cases, in few cases, hydrocele will be associated with inguinal hernia also in 5% of the cases. So you must be careful. You must always examine for the presence of associated hernia also. So in this picture, you can clearly see how the translucency will be. When the light is thrown, passed through the swelling, it becomes lightened up. So the light being transmitted. So here he is not using the transilluminoscope. Still, you can clearly see the glowing of the fluid inside. Primary vaginal hydrocele, they are commonly seen in middle-aged persons in hot countries, temperate countries. Swelling is usually painless. Because it is painless, the person will not present to the doctor. So it reaches a very large size. Sometimes we see very large hydroceles also. Patient tries to adapt to the size of the scrotum. He gets used to it. Unless it is very large and causing a lot of discomfort or it becomes painful, then only the person comes to the doctor. It will be tense with middle constriction and forward projection. So when the fluid is under tension, the swelling feels tense. It projects anteriorly from the body, which is called as forward projection because of the tension. And testis is not palpable. Because the fluid is under tension, you cannot palpate the testis. If there is any doubt about the nature of the testis, you can do an ultrasound scan and visualize the testis in a tense sac. Beware of an acute hydrocele in a young man, since it can be a testicular tumor. This you must always remember while examining young people. Secondary hydroceles are usually lax and of moderate size because this will be symptomatic. There will be pain, there are signs of epididymoarthritis, fever will be there, all these symptoms are there. So the patient presents early to the doctor. The underlying case is palpable because of the laxity of the fluid in the sac. In secondary hydrocele, if you suspect a tumor to be present, if you think the tumor is the cause for the fluid, do not puncture, do not try to aspirate the fluid for fear of needle track implantation of malignant cells. So if the malignant cells infiltrate into the scrotum, you are opening of an alternative lymphatic pathway. These cells will reach the inguinal lymph nodes. Inguinal lymphadenopathy, secondaries in the inguinal lymph nodes, will erode the femoral artery and end the life of the patient. So that is the danger of aspirating the scrotum in the case of testicular tumors. And if you treat the primary condition, that is epididymoarthritis, almost always the secondary hydroceles will regress in size. Congenital hydroceles, which result from patent process vaginalis, sometimes they communicate with the peritoneal cavity. Because the communication is small, the bowel and the momentum cannot enter into the process vaginalis. If the bowel enters, it becomes a case of congenital hernia. Because the bowel is not entered, only fluid trickles down. It is called as congenital hydrocele. Though it is communicating, if you cannot reduce it. If you press it, the fluid cannot go that fast into the peritoneal cavity because of this small opening. It is called as ink bottle effect. If you invert a narrow mouthed bottle with containing fluid, immediately the fluid will not come out, come down, fall down because of the atmospheric pressure. Unless some air goes into the bottle, pushes the fluid down, it will not come out. So the same effect occurs here, and you will be unable to empty the sac, though it is communicating. But as the person lies down, sleeps during night, slowly the fluid trickles into the peritoneal cavity. Early in the morning, the hydrocele will be smaller in size, or it may almost disappear. And the mother may complain that the swelling occurs by the end of the day, it disappears in the morning. So it is appearing intermittently. So this can be called as intermittent hydrocele. Intermittent hydrocele. If this phenomenon occurs on both sides in a child, you must always suspect increased fluid in the peritoneal cavity. You must always suspect ascites to be the cause. Presence of ascites you must suspect. And you must suspect the tuberculous abdomen as the cause of the ascites. So in a child, bilateral communicating congenital hydroceles are present. You must always examine the abdomen for the presence of the fluid, that is ascites and tuberculosis. If the sac is closed only at the internal ring and it is not communicating, so this is called as infantile hydrocele, where the fluid accumulates and forms an inguinoscrotal swelling, but it is closed at the internal ring. The fluid cannot go back into the peritoneal cavity, so it will not reduce in size even after lying down for a long time. So this point in the history differentiates this case from the communicating congenital hydrocele and infantile hydroceles. If an intermediate part of the process vaginalis is patent and distant like a oval swelling, this is called as encysted hydrocele of the cord. This is present within the substance of the spermatic cord at some place. It can be in the inguinal canal, it can be just above the top of the testis, or it can be at the external ring. More commonly, it will be at the external ring. A cystic swelling is present in the spermatic cord or root of the scrotum. So you have to decide whether it is connected with the spermatic cord or not, which can be decided by doing the traction test. Move the swelling sideways, then pull the testis down, making the spermatic cord tense. Again move the swelling. The movement will be decreased. This says that the swelling is, cystic swelling in question is connected with the spermatic cord. So these are the congenital varieties of the hydrocele. Another interesting hydrocele is, which is seen in women, is hydrocele of canal of Knapp. A cystic swelling is present in the rudimentary processus vaginalis. Though the ovary, just like the testes, ovary do not come out of the abdominal cavity. Phylogenetically, a rudimentary processus vaginalis is also found along the round ligament in women. If fluid accumulates in this rudimentary processus vaginalis, this is called as hydrocele of canal of Knapp. This is seen only in women, and this is always partly present in the inguinal canal. Other clinical interesting types of hydroceles are hydrocele en bisac. That means a part of the hydrocele has extended into the peritoneal cavity through the internal ring. Bisac means two sacs are there, constricting agent in the internal ring. And post-herniorrhaphy hydroceles, in 0.2% of the cases, post-hernia surgery, hydrocele will result. Then hydrocele of hernial sac. This is an interesting phenomenon. So the opening in the process vaginalis will be a little larger than the congenital variety. So a nip of the momentum, a little part of momentum enters and blocks the opening. So this small part of momentum which is present in the processus vaginalis, it becomes congested and secretes fluid, resulting in hydrocele. So here the source of the fluid is the trapped momentum at the neck of the sac. So this is called as hydrocele of hernial sac. So these are the pictures you can see. This is artery, hydrocele of the tunica vaginalis. This is infantile variety. This is communicating congenital variety, and this is hydrocele of the cord. Complications of hydrocele, it can get ruptured either spontaneously or with minor trauma. This is one way of spontaneous cure of the hydrocele. So patient says, I have got a scrotal swelling of long duration. Since few days it is decreasing in size, it has disappeared. That means spontaneously or with minor trauma, the parietal layer has given way. The parietal layer has ruptured. A fluid drains into the layers of the scrotum and got absorbed. That is the one thing. If it occurs in a fast manner, patient can present with signs of inflammation and spondylocellulitis. If it occurs gradually, it results in spontaneous cure of the hydroceles. When the tension is more in the sac, so a part of the sac bubbles out through the layers of the dartos muscle, forming a subcutaneous component. Subcutaneous component, just like the cold abscess, which has got a locule inside the deep fascia, a small subcutaneous locule. Just like that, the main hydrocele sac will be inside, and through the dartos muscle here and there, one or two bulgings will be seen subcutaneously. So this is called as hernia of the hydrocele sac. Hydrocele sac herniates through the dartos muscle into the spleen, and it can get transformed into hematocele. Again, this can occur spontaneously or this can occur with minor trauma. Then it becomes symptomatic, painful for some time, and the fluid becomes non-translucent. Calcification of the hydrocele sac. In long-standing cases, calcium salts get deposited in the wall of the sac. So these are the common and simple complications that occur in long-standing hydroceles. Treatment. When do you treat a case of hydrocele? All the cases do not need surgical treatment. Most of the secondary hydroceles, they will regress with treatment of the primary condition. Most of the small primary hydroceles can be left over without any problem. So the indications for treatment are congenital hydroceles. Unless you remove the process vaginalis, the hydrocele do not disappear. Then primary hydroceles. Many primary hydroceles become larger in size. They will be tense. They will be causing discomfort to the person. So they have to be treated. And large secondary hydroceles, because of the size and recurrent secondary hydroceles, with treatment they regress for some time and again come back. And symptomatic secondary hydroceles, they should be treated by surgical measures. What are the operations available for us to treat hydroceles? Congenital hydrocele, because the sac or the process vaginalis extends up to the deep ring, so you have to remove it entirely. If you do only other procedures for these congenital varieties, surely the hydrocele is going to recur. So here we do the herniatomy. Open the inguinal canal, draw the testis upwards, and dissect out the complete process vaginalis up to the deep ring and remove it. So you have to do herniatomy. The procedure is very similar to the herniatomy which is done in case of hernias. So herniatomy is the treatment for congenital varieties of hydroceles. Only for tunica vaginalis hydroceles, we can do the large plication when the sac is very thin, which is demonstrated by the brilliant translucency. And small to medium size cases, we can do the large plication. So in this large plication, we inside the skin, darters and layers of the scrotum and parietal layer, drain the fluid, bring the testis upwards, and the everted parietal layer is sutured by pursuing sutures on either side, bunching it up posterior to the testis. So in this case, we are not dissecting, we are not disturbing the scrotal layers. So there is less chance of hematoma formation, less chance of lymphedema postoperatively. So these two are the advantages of doing large plication. But this is possible only in small to medium sized sacs with thin sac. Another procedure is Sharma and Javers operation. This is also very similar, but after bringing out the testis, here the sac is not plicated, but the testis is lodged in the subcutaneous plane created by blunt dissection between the skin and the darter's muscle. So the testis is forced to lie anteriorly, thereby the parietal layer is everted permanently. Other commonly done procedures are the eversion of the sac, also called as polar eversion of the sac, also called as simple polar eversion. All are same. Here, we dissect out the sac from the layers of the scrotum, locate the testis, incise the sac away from the testis, drain the fluid. The parietal layer is everted to the back of the testis, and here it is sutured. So the parietal layer is everted and goes back to the testis. So this is eversion of the sac. Commonest operation done for the hydroceles. If the sac is large, in the large sacs, if you do simple eversion, the sac itself adds to the bulk of the scrotum. So postoperatively, the size of the scrotum will not decrease much. It will become edematous. It will cause discomfort. So patient will not be happy with your procedure. So in such cases, you excise a part of the sac, make it small, then evert the sac. This is called as Jaboule's operation. Jaboule's operation is partial excision and eversion of the sac. If the sac is very thick, small or large, very thick sac, it is difficult to evert this fibrosed thick sac. So in such cases, you have to excise the sac completely close to the testis and epididymis. The problem here is, if you cut close to the testis, there will be a lot of bleeding. So that is the danger. So this bleeding has to be controlled by applying a continuous interlocking hemostatic suture. Continuous interlocking hemostatic suture should be applied to the cut edge to control the bleeding. And you have to keep a drain into the scrotal sac separately to drain any bleeding if that happens. So in Jaboule's operation, anyway we are excising the sac. Why don't we excise totally sac? Because of this problem. If you go nearer to the testis, more bleeding will be there. So to avoid this more bleeding, we leave behind a part of the sac. Just we will trim the sac and evert the sac. That's the reason. So what is the basic principle of all these surgeries except the congenital variety? Here what we do is, by some means, we are removing the parietal layer of the sac. So the fluid continues to be secreted by the visceral layer, that is tunica albuginea. Because of the parietal layer is not there, it will not accumulate there. It will drain into the layers of the scrotum and gets absorbed through the scrotal lymphatics. This is the principle of all the hydrocele operations. Whatever procedure you do, we concentrate on the parietal layer, we remove it. The fluid further secreted gets absorbed into the layers of the scrotum through the inguinal lymphatics. This picture shows the Lord's operation, where the testis is brought up and the parietal layer is plicated using absorbable sutures. This is eversion of the sac. The parietal layer has been everted posteriorly and it is sutured. Aspiration of hydrocele fluid. In the olden days, this was, when the anesthetic facilities are not there, this was the most common procedure done for hydrocele fluid. Nowadays, this is not done because you have got good anesthetic facilities, good theatre facilities. We will be doing the procedure which is commonly done. So this aspiration is simple and fluid accumulates, reaccumulates within a week or so. This is done temporarily in men who are unfit for scrotal surgery. The old man will be having a lot of other problems, sugar, BP, all those things, cardiac problems, etc. And there is a lot of discomfort with the scrotal swelling. In such cases, just carefully aspirate the fluid. It will give some comfort to the person, make him fit by controlling all the other. Then you can operate on it. Done every day, temporary. For aspirating, you must be careful. You must do trans-illumination test to locate the testis and to select avascular skin. So testis is usually posterior. Sometimes in anteverted it will be anterior. Yes. If you put the needle blindly, you may damage the testis, convert the hydrocele into hematocele. In cases where the transillumination is negative, in such cases, you can take the help of the ultrasound to locate the testis and to find. After aspiration, when the sac collapses, you must always palpate the testis and see whether it is normal or abnormal. Problems with aspiration are sound. The problem with aspiration is it can result in hematocele formation. If you prick a small vessel or if you prick a testis, it will result in hematocele formation. And this opportunity can be taken for injecting the sclerosants. Sclerotherapy you can do. Sclerotherapy is done after aspirating the fluid completely. Then you can inject the tetracycline to the sac, gently rub it to distribute it evenly, then apply a firm hydrocele bandage. And hydrocortisone also can be injected. These drugs, they cause local irritation, local inflammation, and cause adherence of the both visceral and parietal layers of the tunica vaginalis, resulting in collapse and obliteration of the sac. So this can also be tried. It should be done carefully, otherwise it will convert the unilocular hydrocele into multilocular hydrocele, which is very difficult to treat. So aspiration also can be done, but in few instances where the circumstances demand. Another type of hydrocele is filiaral hydrocele, which is common in coastal India. Filiaral hydrocele and chylocele are more common in the coastal India. 80% of hydroceles in tropical countries are filiaral hydrocele, where the Bucararia bancrofti is endemic. It follows repeated attacks of filial epidermoarthritis. Repeated attacks of filial epidermoarthritis, whereby the repeated inflammation will cause fibrosis of the lymphatics, blockage of the lymphatics, and the dead worms in the lymphatics will calcify and block the lymphatics. Then there will be hampering of the fluid absorption and accumulation of the fluid in the tunica vaginalis. This fluid contains liquid fat which is rich in cholesterol. Some of this fluid originates in the bowel and comes down through the reflux of the lymph downwards. So it contains a lot of fat. Another variety of filial hydrocele is chylocele. The chyle is nothing but lymph drainage from the small bowel. Lymph coming from the small bowel. Lymph flowing the lacteals is called as chyle because it contains a lot of fat. The medium chain fatty acids which are absorbed through the lymphatic pathway, they are present in the chyle. So it will be whitish in color. So this is called as chyle. If the cisterna chyli is blocked, by the dead filial worms, all this chyle and lymph accumulated in the cisterna chyli comes down through the dilated lymphatics. So the scrotal lymphatics, the lymphatic vessels in the parietal layer also will be dilated and varicose. If one of these varicose lymphatics ruptures, the fluid leaks into the tunica vaginalis, gets accumulated there, resulting in what is called as chylocele. So it is almost just like hydrocele, but the fluid will be a little turbid, a little whitish in color. The treatment is by rest and aspiration. And in chronic cases, the excision of the sac, just like the hydrocele treatment, must be done. Another complication of hydrocele is hematocele. It can result after the needle drainage of hydrocele after aspiration, or it can occur with trauma. With minor trauma, hydrocele gets converted into hematocele, or it can result from the presence of a tumor in the testis. Tumor testis can present as hematocele of recent origin. The interesting case is old clotted hematocele. Slow, spontaneous bleed into the sac without causing any pain. No obvious, no identifiable trauma will be there. So blood slowly accumulates, clots there and compresses the testis, pushes the testis to one side and compresses it, resulting in atrophy, pressure atrophy of the testis. It simulates a tumor. There is a large, hard swelling of the scrotum. This is not the enlarged testis, but the clot. The testis should be at one side, compressed very much, and has become atrophy. So it is a futile attempt, a wasteful attempt to identify the testis. So the treatment is orchidectomy. Remove the entire mass by doing scrotal orchidectomy, so that patient will be happy. This is old clotted hematocele. So this entire swelling is the clot and testis is onto one side, compressed very much. And this testis cannot be salvaged. This cannot be protected. So it is better to do the orchidectomy to get rid of the huge scrotal swelling. Summary: hydrocele is a collection of fluids in tunica vaginalis. Primary hydroceles are there. Ultrasound examination valuable in doubtful cases. They can be treated conservatively if they are small and symptomatic, and large hydroceles needs surgery. Always remember to rule out testicular malignancy in a case of young adults presenting with hydroceles. Now coming to another cystic swellings of the scrotum. The common cystic swellings of the scrotum are: commonest is fluid accumulation in the tunica vaginalis. It can be hydrocele, hematocele, chylocele, pyocele, all celes will be there. Second, the cyst in relation to the epididymis, cyst of the epididymis and spermatoceles. Or there can be a encysted hydrocele of the cord. So these are the cystic swellings that present in the scrotum. We will discuss about cysts of the epididymis. These are the degenerative cysts that occurs more commonly in head of the epididymis. They can occur in the body and tail of the epididymis also, but more common in the epididymis, head of the epididymis. Cysts in relation to the epididymis are two types: epididymal cysts and the spermatoceles. Epididymal cysts are degenerative cysts. They contain clear fluid. They are multiple. They occur in bunches together. Spermatocele is retention cyst of the sperm conducting mechanism. There is a block to the spermatic tubules, so the sperm accumulates there and forms a cyst. It is unilocular, single, always in the head of the epididymis. This is called as spermatocele. It contains the sperm. So the fluid will be whitish or barley in color. Epididymal cysts are common. They are commonly seen after middle age. Multiple. They may vary in size, often bilateral. They are found in middle age. They represent cystic degeneration of the epididymis. The findings are they resemble cluster of 10 cysts. They resemble tiny bunches of grapes. Just like a bunch of grapes, small cysts will be accumulated at one place. They lie posterior to and separate from the testis. They are filled with a crystal clear fluid. The fluid is very clear, very clear. So they give the brilliantly translucency. Brilliant translucency. Only few swellings will give brilliant translucency. One is the epididymal cyst. Second one is the meningocele. Third one is the parasitic cyst. Fourth one is the cystic hygroma. These are all the swellings which contain very, very clear fluid. So they give the brilliant translucency on clinical examination. They transilluminate brilliantly because they are small and multiple. It gives a Chinese lantern appearance or pattern. Chinese lantern pattern will be seen on translucency. The diagnosis is confirmed by ultrasound. By ultrasound, you can decide whether it is attached to the testis or to the epididymis. The treatment, aspiration is useless because they are multilocular, multiple cystic swellings are there. You cannot aspirate all those things. So if they are causing discomfort, if they are small and causing less difficulty to the person, leave them alone. If they are causing discomfort, they should be excised. If patient is lucky and having one or two cysts, you excise them. The cysts are multilocular or multiple, you may have to excise the part of the epididymis having this. So excision of this epididymal cyst will definitely interfere with sperm conducting mechanism. It amounts equally to the vasectomy. So you must inquire whether the person has completed his family or not, then only advise surgical interference with the epididymal cyst. Otherwise, treat him conservatively or symptomatically because you are making him infertile. And another second type of cystic swelling of the epididymis is spermatocele. A patient with a spermatocele often complains that he has a third testicle because the size of the spermatocele is such that it is equal in size to the testis. So he thinks that he is having an extra testis. So there is an anecdote regarding the spermatocele.